The oldest sorcerers we know are allegedly from the Heian period, 1000 years before the start of this series, but curses as a concept are presumably much older and more primal. If ordinary humans can't see curses except in life or death situations or inside domains, how do you think the first sorcerers came about? Sukuna being able to use fire techniques and his comment about contracts being the foundation of all curse techniques contradicts a lot of what we've been told about Jujutsu. I have a suspicion that there's a bit more to acquiring Jujutsu techniques than being born with them. The origin of Jujutsu sorcery is the emergence of curses, which are manifestations of negative human emotions such as fear, anger, and sorrow. When the curses become a threat to the humanity, some individuals awaken the ability to control and manipulate cursed energy. Over time, different families like the Zenin, Gojo, and Kamo clans cultivated unique techniques that reflected their individual lineages. Another notable figure is Toji Fushiguro, known as the Sorcerer Killer, who, despite lacking cursed energy, possessed immense physical strength and combat skills, allowing him to defeat powerful sorcerers and challenge the established norms of Jujutsu. The first sorcerers either evolved due to their environment or were mutations. Vows and contracts being a base in Jujutsu were to make yourself stronger outside normal means, and during the Golden Age, most sorcerers used a classic domain with a vow in order to be strong. In order to use Jujutsu, you must first have a brain that is capable to use it. Mahito used this on Junpei. If a person is born with a brain capable of Jujutsu, and if they have a technique, it usually shows around ages 5 to 6. Anyone who can use a technique can use Jujutsu, but not everyone that can use Jujutsu can have a technique. This makes me believe that being born with a brain that can use Jujutsu was either an evolutionary response to fight against curses or was a mutation, sort of like how blue eyes are a mutation. Genetics and heritage play a big role in the Jujutsu world. The first sorcerers most likely used Jujutsu like Yuji currently does, mainly punching and kicking, but as sorcerers get stronger, curses also grow in strength. Curses develop techniques and sorcerers followed suit. Cursed techniques are etched into the body at birth. There's no changing that, unless you become a vessel of a cursed object. Making vows or contracts was one of the big bases for Jujutsu sorcery, a contract that serves the interest of all parties. This can be made with either another person or one's self. If you make a vow with someone and fail to uphold your end of the bargain, the consequences could be severe and are a complete mystery. A vow can only be made with Jujutsu. When you fail to complete the vow with yourself, you usually lose what was gained in the first place. We know a few of the vows or limitations people use currently: revealing one's hand and overtime. Revealing one's hand. When you tell someone how technique works, it becomes more effective. Hanami's buds and blood technique rot, or in exchange you gain more cursed energy. Overtime is a time-based vow that Nanami used. He limits how much cursed energy he can use for 8 hours a day. After that, overtime kicks in and he gains more cursed energy than he would produce on his own. Making vows is how you gain strength and cursed energy, but you also put yourself at risk. This is very similar to the classic domains that Higurama uses and was widespread during the Heian era. These classic domains are essentially a self-made vow that is shared with an opponent. This is likely what Sukuna meant when he said vows is the base of Jujutsu, when everyone used domains with limitations. The next vow is Heavenly Restriction. This is assigned at birth and you don't get a choice in anything. Toji, Maki, and Mekamaru all had this. It makes them an outlier in the world of Jujutsu. Mekamaru had boundless cursed energy and could use his techniques with massive range and quantity. Toji had no cursed energy but could still see and feel curses and beat both Gojo and Geto. Maki couldn't use any techniques but was basically superhuman. Heavenly restrictions may also be hereditary. For Tengen, he is stated to have founded Jujutsu when he was helping to spread Japanese Buddhism, but Jujutsu was at odds with religion. Based on what we know, it's becoming clear. Tengen is stated to have founded Jujutsu when he was helping to spread Japanese Buddhism, but Jujutsu was at odds with religion. The thing about religion, including Buddhism, even though it is quite peaceful in its unadulterated form is that it tends to help organize societies and, in many cases, amass power or create power-based hierarchies. Tengen was between Buddhism and Jujutsu, which is synonymous with power if we look at those at the top, like Sukuna, Kenjaku, and Gojo. Tengen clearly discovered a way to help amass power through Jujutsu and probably wanted to organize society with it. He built a whole Jujutsu society literally around him. The basics of Jujutsu seem to be barriers and binding vows. And one other thing, with these, you build and build until you have techniques, domain expansions, and vow-based systems like the calling game. A human body is technically a barrier, and inside of a barrier, curse technique can collect. When you make a vow or many vows with your own soul and modify the conditions of the curse technique inside, you get a technique. But the one other thing is that Tengen harnessed the energy of human suffering, amplified it by drawing a barrier around Japan, and created a system where select individuals who he shared his secrets with were able to practice Jujutsu themselves. I believe Tengen did this not just to organize society and amass raw power, but to find a way to give himself immortality, which he succeeded in doing. I think he was probably interested in being an immortal teacher, getting the idea from Buddhism, but twisting it into something unrecognizable and unholy. Instead of helping others escape suffering, he has created a system fueled on suffering while he continues to gain forever.